Hi, this is Christina Corcooran from Corcooran Marketing Group, and I'm here with Jim Steffes from Direct Energy. Jim was a panelist on our webinar for the energy stakeholders of the future, talking about the retail voice. And when Jim was with the webinar, he was talking about the technology advancements, and he's coined the phrase about his 4Ds. So we wanted to bring him back and continue the conversation. So Jim, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. So,
yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Jim, just to continue with these conversations, we had started, and with the webinar, you had started talking about like the changes that have been happening with COVID-19 and how it's changed the retail energy business and what a company's going to need to thrive in this new evolving normal. Can you kind of expand on that?
Sure. Happy to do that. As I sort of have, and again, we're always, what we continue to try to be is just a much more customer-centric, customer-focused firm. And that's hard, right? Because, the industry continues to evolve, the technology we have, the solutions we have, customers' understanding of energy, and the marketplace continues to evolve. And I think the lockdown, our economic changes that are going to come, how people are now working remotely, how people are going to work much more virtually. I think all that's going to play out inside of this market and how we address and how we help our customers. The thing that I keep coming back to, though, is just really the question around service. And as consumers and as customers have time to think about the values that are important to them, about where they want to go in the future, as we continue to accelerate down this path of cleaner and smarter energy, I think we are going to have to continue to up our game as it comes to service, in serving, and really think about, are we doing enough for our customers, for our communities, and for our colleagues? And that's going to change. I mean, that's a new way of thinking. I think we've always tried to do that, but I think that the COVID-19 and the illness and sort of the stepping back and recognition about how people operate and what's valuable and important to them means that we have to think about service. Clearly, the fundamental job is to deliver the commodity to empower customers so they can turn on their internet, so they can turn on their Zoom meetings, so they can keep their food safe and keep their families thriving in this information technology world. And as we do that, so the commodity is critical, but it has to become more than a commodity. It has to become about service. It has to become about serving. And I think as we continue to evolve, that's where we're going to take our business. I think that's where our industry has to keep going. And then finally, I think we have to consider ourselves not just energy retailers, but a part of the energy ecosystem. Consumers, they don't really want electrons. They don't really want therms of natural gas. What they really want is the ability, as we were talking about, that your lights come on, that you have the ability to empower your life to get the information and have the conversations you want to have. And so that's where we have to continue to focus. And what that means, how do we work with the other people in our industry, the other companies, the other segments? How do we expand our industry so that we really are talking more broadly about energy writ large in helping this dialogue we need to have as a society about energy as we move forward?
Yeah, I agree completely with all of that, especially as a consumer, I just told you, my power was out for 24 hours. And luckily, Pico has this great app that keeps us up to date constantly on what they're doing. So as a consumer, I really appreciate that and the service that they give. So that kind of continues on to this and the next question. So as a retailer, do you think the retailers are doing enough to listen to the customers and hearing what the consumer actually wants, and what kind of changes do you think we need to make in the industry?
I think that's a great question. Are retailers doing enough to listen to our customers? I think the easy answer is, of course, no. I mean, mainly because, not only because, I should say that with the record that I know every retailer I've worked at or worked with, and in my peers and the competitors in this business are doing everything they can every day to try to listen better. But listening is a skill that you can constantly improve. If you read the news, if you see the regulatory community, which I think is a reflection of customer angst, it reflects how customers are feeling and how some customers are feeling that maybe they're not as included in the benefits of competitive opportunities. I think we can always do better as an industry. And I know we can do better as a company. I mean, that's something we talk about every day. And keeping that feedback loop. Again, listening is a skill, and it's a hard skill. I mean, it's hard for people to listen. We're seeing that on a number of fronts in our society today. And if we all take a moment to listen and hear what they're saying, and I've always been a strong proponent that if somebody's saying something and you can't express their point of view as well as they can, even though you may not agree all the time, then I don't think you really understand what they're saying. And we see this every day in choices customers make, either customers choosing us with our products we have or not choosing us, fleeing us, coming back to us, calling us, asking us for better service. The interesting thing about markets, and I think we often, and this goes to what we can do better as an industry, we often talk about choice as the value of competition in competitive markets, restructured energy markets, and sort of new technology. And that's true. I often sort of boil it down to, though, as a consumer, for the vast majority of the time, I'm happy, I'm satisfied, I'm okay with what I want. What markets really give people to do, which monopolies don't, and oversight and control don't, is the ability to fire somebody. And that's, of course, the loudest message you can miss if you're not listening closely. Because when a consumer says, I don't want you anymore, if somebody comes into my home and he's going to come or she's going to come fix something and they mess something else up, my choice is to say, I don't want you back in my home. You didn't value my home as much as I value it. So I don't want to do that. And that is one of those great opportunities. And I think that's something we don't talk to policymakers enough about, which is the right to fire your supplier is probably just, or if not more valuable than having a choice, because it's when you're disappointed in somebody, and Pico, a monopoly wire company that owns the meter, they have listened a little bit to say, why are we not, with the technology we have, with the meters we have, not giving you the ability to see in real time if you're out and our estimate for when you're back? I mean, think about how much relief that provides a consumer, because you can make a choice about where am I going and when will I'm doing that. I was back there during the superstorm. I lived in Philadelphia, and we didn't have that technology. I think it was very clunky. And it was hard because you're wondering, do I stay in this house one more night? I have young kids. Or do we find another way? Do we do something else? Not knowing, is it a day? Is it 2 days? Is it an hour? But again, I think we need to be doing with our regulators, helping them, giving them an opportunity to inform us, working with them more collaboratively, and working with them in a way where we're transparent and listening to their needs. I think we've not done a good job as an industry explaining the values we bring and the services we bring and the products we bring. We're so competitive. And I'm always, of course we're competitive. That's what people want us to. In fact, what consumers do best with is when we're the most competitive we can. But we also need to be more transparent with regulators and policymakers to explain what's happening, why it's happening, and listen when there's an issue. So we don't get discard or dismiss some thoughtful comment that we need to be picking up. So that's kind of what retailers be doing. But again, I think at the end of the day, listening will never. The moment we stop trying to improve our ability to listen is the moment the customers tell us they don't want to talk to us anymore.
Absolutely. And the day of with social media, and especially the next generation that's coming up, the millennials will be, they're the next set of customers. They'll only do things that, based on recommendations or what the internet says or the reviews on the online say. So, it's going to be even more important for retailers and the regulators to listen.
Yep, absolutely.
So, well, thank you. I got one more question more about the utility side of things. And will the utilities that have remained isolated, do you think they'll move more towards like greener energy and smart grids? And how do you see that happening?
When you say isolated, I guess you're meaning more monopoly based, right?
Yeah.
Well, look, ultimately, I think they'll do it. I think utilities will move towards that because, their customers themselves are asking them. Consumers in those marketplaces and those environments are asking for smarter energy, cleaner energy, and more affordable energy. That's I consider myself to be a technology optimist. And one of the elements of optimism around technology is you can't unlearn an improvement. We can't at this point forget as a society and as an engineering and as an energy economy how LEDs have improved the ability to light more cheaply and in fact with a higher quality, right? I mean, that's the one thing. And so as the cost of renewables both at scale and sort of at in a distributed sense have come down dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years. That opportunity exists for companies like mine to help customers, but also those closed market utilities. In terms of smartness, this is one of the things that I think people should step back from. There's a drive to do renewables, and I think that's the right drive. I would start though with better information in the fingertips of customers. And so I'm a huge believer that we've done most of the U.S. has seen smart meters deployed, but there's still a huge percentage of the U.S. that hasn't. And even in the places where smart meters have been deployed, data and data exchange and the ability to leverage that information, data to information to knowledge, taking that data from the smart meter and turning it into knowledge on behalf of the customer, be it you or with a thermostat company or a smart home company or a virtual power plant company. We can do a lot more to turn that data, getting more data and turning it into knowledge, which is useful to customers. And so I'm a huge fan of first starting with data and information and knowledge, and then focusing on the elements of green, because I think the greenest energy, of course, to an overused term, to use megawatts and to really basically make sure that we're only using energy when we need to. And technology gives us the ability to control things in such a new way, the digitization of our grid and of our homes. I often say, that is a core component of where we're going to go. And if we allow that digitization to happen, allow that data to be released on behalf of the customer and used on behalf of the customer in a way which turns it into information and true knowledge, which can be applied in their homes and businesses, I think we're gonna much more rapidly get to a cleaner future. And so I'm a big believer in that. I think the other thing is I think all of the policy leaders and utility leadership see that there's an opportunity as we green up the electric industry. I think they see an opportunity to do better for their businesses and their shareholders as well. And that's a great opportunity. I just hope more and more the choice is made to go green faster through competitive markets than relying upon a monopoly. And a great example, I think is Virginia. Direct has worked extremely hard over the last 2 to 3 years, trying to make sure that, customers in Virginia have the right to choose better green energy options. And they've been choosing quite dramatically. And that, is sort of now in that decision is with the Virginia regulators. And we're certainly hopeful that Virginia's regulators continue to allow their businesses and ultimately their homes to make good choices around green energy. And I'm hopeful of that fact. I'm hopeful that will happen. And because I know that you can have both competitive energy markets and other activities which drive towards a greener future. And doing that will be the right answer for the customers. And it goes back to your first question about listening.
Right.
You know, why if they're telling us pretty clearly they like choice, they like options, why would we turn off the ability to listen to that ask from them while they want to get down a cleaner, greener, smarter path?
I agree. Yeah, you definitely make a good point that, like you said, it all comes back to listening and giving people what they want.
Yes.
So, well, Jim, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us. I really appreciate it. We want to continue these conversations and bring all the different stakeholders within energy together to, because the times over the next decade in this industry are going to be really exciting with all the green technology and all the advancement that it's going to be really cool. So we really appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
If there's anything I can do, let me know. Thanks, Christina.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.